Welcome back to the Deeply Rested podcast. Have you explored systems like human design, Enneagram, astrology, or Myers-Briggs? If so, chances are you have learned so much about yourself, really valuable information about your purpose and your personality. But all of this information can leave you feeling overwhelmed and confused about how to apply it to your life today. Well, today's guest is here to share a new framework called the growth cycle that will help you translate all of the knowledge and insights you're learning about yourself into a roadmap that will help you make decisions and create plans for your life 1 year at a time. I am excited to introduce you to my friend, Kate Vanden Bos. Kate is the creator of the growth cycle, a personal evolution framework rooted in rhythm, not in hustle. She helps high-achieving women break free from burnout and reconnect with what matters, their own natural energy cycles. In this conversation, Kate explains what the growth cycle is, how you can use it in your life and business to create more ease and flow so that you can do more of what matters to you while becoming deeply rested. Wow, it is truly a refreshing paradigm shift and a brand new perspective on how to do good work in the world while taking really good care of yourself. And don't forget, if you enjoy this conversation with Kate, I would be so grateful if you could share this episode with a few friends. Sharing your favorite episodes with people you love is the most meaningful way you can support the Deeply Rested podcast. Thank you so much for being here, and I really hope you enjoy this deeply rested conversation with Kate Vanden Bos. Welcome to Deeply Rested, the podcast that helps people doing good work in the world take incredibly good care of themselves. I'm your host, retired therapist and disillusioned business coach, Megan Megginson. I'm on a mission to help people like you unlearn the rules that keep you trapped in self-doubt so that you can recover from burnout and finally become deeply rested. If you enjoyed today's show, be sure to subscribe to this podcast and join our weekly newsletter at deeplyrested.com/newsletter. Now, it's time for the show. Kate, welcome to Deeply Rested.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Good to talk to you.
It's so good to see you, and I'm very excited today to talk all about this incredible system that you have created, designed, called the growth cycle. And right out of the gate, can you just tell us, high-level overview, what the growth cycle is?
Yeah, absolutely. The highest level is it's a personal evolution framework, and it's designed on us emulating our natural cycles, just like a plant does, just like a harvest does. You plant the seed, you spend the year moving through 12 different phases of growth to actually harvest at the end of the year. And the genius part of that is, just like every plant, is that we have our own personal growth cycle. The main underpinning of the work that I'm doing is actually helping people consciously understand that so they can work with it.
Okay, we have a lot to discuss. This is so beautiful. I've used the growth cycle personally, so I have experienced it in my own life, and it's so rich and nuanced, and I love the way you just captured it. It's a way to track my personal evolution in a really natural, organic way, and there are some specific applications for business owners that we're going to talk about a little bit later. But before we get into the nitty-gritty details about the growth cycle, Kate, I am always the most interested in hearing about how you channeled this idea, how you created this incredible resource. And you mentioned earlier that the growth cycle was actually birthed in a swimming pool.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you can just tell me that story.
Well, my evolution was born in the swimming pool, and I guess the growth cycle framework came out of the back end of that. And it's still evolving today, just like everything else. As an organic being, it is continuing to grow and evolve. But years ago, it just set the stage, right? So I'm in my early 30s. I'm studying naturopathic osteopathy, which is all about actually getting your body out of its own way so that it actually can flow and heal itself. And that's what I'm studying every day. And yet I'm in the swimming pool across the street before lessons, and I'm beating my body up in a swimming pool. I am dying after 20 lengths because I thought, I'm looking at all these people in the other lanes that from the outside, they're making it look so easy and effortless, and they're flowing length on length. And I'm fighting with the water. And after 20 lengths, feeling exhausted at the end of it. And this was going on and on and on. And I had the mentality at the time of, again, coming out of the back end of being a personal trainer and a sports therapist and very heavily involved in the sport world and the fitness world, and then moved into bodywork and medicine. We just have to work harder. Just work is clearly my problem, that the water is stronger than me. So I just need to become stronger than the water. And I'm sure we all can understand what that feels like. It's a beautiful analogy because we've all been there, right? There's that resistance that water gives you when you fight with it, and that we can continue just fighting with it. And I was just thought, well, I have to get stronger. I have to push harder. I have to do more. I have to train more, and it will get easier. It did not get easier. And I did not look any classier or smoother doing it. And it was actually one day where I was handed a book called The Art of Swimming, which is all about the Alexander technique and applying that to the swim stroke. And cutting a very long story short, what actually meant, and literally overnight, I went from struggling with 20 lengths to effortlessly gliding through 60. And the thing that changed was my alignment with the water, my resistance. Instead of fighting with the water, I was actually encouraged to work with it, allow it to support me, allow the water to do what the water is there to do, and hold and support my body. And then I learned to move through it. And that changed everything. So that's a really good example of that metaphor for life, where the fight and the push and the struggle against the elements, against the current of life, was leading to exhaustion and burnout, and a few little tweaks and changes. So fast forward, through a couple more years, it was like one of these situations where a lot of elements all just suddenly started coming together. By this time, I'm studying nature-based coaching. I'm up in Colorado, and another book was presented to me, which had the idea around working through our astrological houses throughout the year and how everybody works through that differently. I see an idea layer on top of each other. So that was then I saw a compass layered over the top of that. And then there was some elements layered in. And then I brought in more of the oracle cards too. There's 7 iterations actually now. This is the 7th time that the growth cycle is currently going through another rebirth and upgrade. But it took 7 different go-arounds to actually get it to where it is now, which is a functional framework that I've designed it and packaged it in a way that I can share it with other people so that they can use it for themselves.
Ooh, wow. I love the term functional framework. And I think I was starting to say this to you before we hit record, that I love hearing these creation stories because it is such a beautiful reminder that we all have the ability to channel these ideas and to create new things in our businesses and in our lives. It's a very iterative process, right? I think sometimes people get stuck and kind of paralyzed in this perfectionism because they think that, they can't put something out into the world until it's complete and it's polished and it's been tested and it's just perfect and ready to go. And hearing you talk about the growth cycle, that it's in its 7th iteration and you keep seeing new layers and tweaking things and finding ways to make it more functional so that other people can adapt it and use it. There's so much wisdom in that alone, Kate. So thank you for sharing so honestly about how this has come through you and how it just keeps coming in chapters, one chapter after another.
It's a good reminder too. And I'll openly say I am a recovering thinkaholic. And there's perfectionism was truly my middle name. And it still is if I'm falling asleep at the wheel, sometimes I have to catch myself and I have to remember. So that's a beautiful reminder for me to hear too, is that there is everything is perfect in the way that it is. It's perfectly designed for what it is right now. And will it continue to grow? Of course, just like we all do, but everything is perfect for right now. And there is this tendency, like as you know, and I'm sure all your listeners will know too, is this tendency to plan, right? To have it all. Nothing can happen until you've got the 5-year plan. And then you've broken the 5-year plan down into this milestone and this target. And you need the marketing design. Who is your audience? Who is this? And this did not happen that way at all. I used it myself. That's the first couple of years of actually using this and applying it. And so it actually has proof of concept. And I think that's a stronger thing than anything else, is actually look at what's working and keep doing it, and the more years I've worked with it, and the more clients I work with it, the more it's a gift that keeps on giving. I am learning more, which keeps me interested in it. If I'd have sat down 7 years ago, I could not have pictured it in this format. And when we first met, it didn't even exist online. It was actually in, the mastermind group that we were in together that it actually became born as a concept. So again, I had an idea. I was working with it one-on-one with clients, and I was in my own way because I couldn't get over this perfectionism. It has to be like this. It has to be like this. And it was almost like fixated at the time on, well, I'm the key to this. If I don't explain it, the client's not going to understand it. And then suddenly it unlocked and became, I saw how it laid out. It's like, well, actually, it could be self-guided. If I did this and this, and if I put myself into it, again, it was more of an efficiency thing because I was saying the same thing to clients over and over again. It's like, why didn't I just record this for them? And then I can say, you're in phase 2, listen to this. You're in phase 3, listen to this. So that's actually how the course was truly born. The online framework is because I wanted to be efficient and not keep saying the same things over and over again. And out of that, a whole new level of growth came from that.
I also love how in this origin story, there are so many synchronicities, right? These moments when it sounds like a character pops on and says, oh, hey, Kate, check out this book. The book is just the perfect little dose of medicine that you need right then to spark the next chapter of this idea. Comes to you in book form, delivered by some unsuspecting supporting character.
Yeah.
It feels like there's real alchemy in how all of these pieces sort of show up for you at just the right time.
It's funny you say that because the book that just popped to mind is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
There we go.
And that's one of those books. If you haven't read it, I please highly recommend that you go and grab a copy of it. But it is one of those books that I've read it a dozen times at least. And it's one of those magical books that when you're reading it, it's different every time. Right. And I'm like, oh, I don't remember that from last time because I'm different. I'm 12 times different every time that I've read it. And if you haven't read it, The Alchemist talks about the journey of the boy that is searching for something. And it's his quest and the internal growth that needs to happen for him to actually realize what he was looking for all along. And I love that. That's life. And again, full of symbolism, full of guidance. I love oracle cards. That's my preferred divination tool. And the growth cycle works with or without it. It works with the idea is that you're paying attention. It's bringing awareness to paying attention to what is around you and the way that you are the world and the world is you, right? If we want to be very grounded about it and more scientific, is what we're paying attention to is what we're filtering through our own nervous system. So by changing your awareness of the world around you, you can change your own internal world and vice versa. You change inside and your outside world and experience starts to change. And that's not even talking about all the magical stuff around it. That's just literally neuroscience of how our experience of the world changes when our awareness of it changes. I love being a part of somebody's process that where they're actually starting to see something differently or feel something differently. And nothing around them necessarily has changed. They've changed.
Right.
Therefore, everything is different.
And the growth cycle is a system, and we're going to talk about it now in more detail. It's a framework that helps you kind of, I think, it gives a little bit of structure to your own evolution process. So what you're saying about when I change, my world changes, everything changes. But the change process, the personal growth process can be so overwhelming, right? It can be just we can feel lost in the forest. And the growth cycle is this beautiful piece of, I don't know, you'll have to give me the words for it. It's this beautiful framework that helps you see, oh, actually, you're not lost in the forest. You're right here. And here's how you can move through this particular phase of your journey through the forest. So do me a favor and make what I just said sound smarter, basically. Tell me what is
smart.
it that actually...
I'm still in awe of this as well. So excuse me getting just so excited talking about it because it's just so magical in the way that it can be used and utilized and accessed in a way. What I like to think about is, again, we're thinking in layers. So we have our intellectual mind, which likes to be busy, right? That's where we get into overthinking, overanalyzing, overdoing, overcontrolling. It's actually our intellectual mind that wants to do something. It wants to feel in control. So part of what I've realized is that the growth cycle, because there is a tangible structure, it has numbers, it has a sequence, it has dates, it has a tangible framework that your intellectual brain can feel comfortable with. Because it knows, like, it's again, like looking at your calendar for the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You know what day it is today. We know that today is today. And our brain can settle into that knowing of, okay, I know where I am in the context of the week, in the month, in the year. I can plan a little bit ahead because I know where I am and I know what's coming next. That kind of almost calms your nervous system down because it's not waiting for that fight or flight of surprise. It's like, what's coming next? What do I have to be ready for? What do I have to anticipate? So if we kind of keep the intellectual part of our brain focused on that, that allows the intuitive part to actually have space, because that is what is really guiding the ship. And if we, again, keep the ego occupied so it doesn't get busy, right? It doesn't get in there. Are you sure about that? Are you going to do about this? Worry about this, worry about that. Whereas our intuition can then put its radar out and get a deeper meaning from the signs and symbols, the conversations, and staying open and alert. You're talking about being handed books. That is being open to conversation with the universe, if you want to put it another way. That's happening to us all the time. We have to stay aware and open to that. And again, in a functional nutshell, is how to use the growth cycle is not a test. It's not a course. It's not a assessment. You don't get to the end of every, again, like I mentioned, there's 12 phases through the year.
Actually, let's pause for a second. And I would love to actually, for people who haven't seen it, the visual image of the growth cycle, can you just describe what it is, how many phases there are? Paint us a picture, Kate.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you imagine, because I love this, again, our brains love story, our brains love imagery, and that's why leaning into metaphor is just so perfect for this. So imagine a compass, north, south, east, west in your mind. Imagine that compass is then divided into 12 equal pie pieces. And there's each quadrant, if you like, so each season has 3 parts of the pie. And so there's 12 phases throughout the year, and each of those fall into a season or a direction. So there's different themes that underpin and underlie each of the phases that we go through. Again, if you think of the metaphor of literally planting a seed, which we do actually in phase 11, and that's the part of the year your growth cycle starts in phase 11. And normally we'd think, well, why isn't it starting in 1? Again, good question. Is again, if we know what happens with a seed, it doesn't come above the ground the very first day. There's a lot of work that has to happen before a seed is born. And that happens in phases 11 and 12. So again, in your mind's eye, imagine a big circle, north, south, east, west, divided into 12 pie pieces. Each of them are seasons, and each of them has a theme. And so we will all go through the same cycle every year. We all experience the same phases, the same themes. We just do it at different times of the year because we were all born differently. We had a different code at our birth time. And so therefore, yours and mine, particularly as a good example, we are in different phases right now. And clients that I work with could be in completely the opposite side of the cycle at the same day. So 2 days date, you are in a different phase or a different part of your cycle than somebody else. But we're all walking the same path, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we're just at different points on the path.
And we repeat it. That's the other thing to recognize every year is that it isn't just once. And another really good visual, if you imagine, yes, we're looking at a circle, but I want you to also imagine a spiral. So you're going to walk, and you have been walking this path every year of your life, and you've just been doing it unconsciously. So again, we want to be doing it by design and having an understanding of it. But as you're circling around, if you become more aware and more conscious of it, you are growing and elevating as you rise up in the spiral. So yes, you're going to come back to the same point next year and you'll be in the same phase, but you will be different, like with the alchemist. You will be looking at the experiences from a different place because you have grown another ring around your tree, if you like. You're a little bit wiser and more elevated in your awareness.
Give us an example of some of the phases on the growth cycle.
Okay, so right now I'm personally in phase 2. Phase 1 is you're reborn, right? So the seedling has just popped through the soil metaphorically, and you have an identity awareness, right? So that's where you are right now. You're actually in your phase one. So you're, without knowing necessarily anything about the context of your life right now, you and your identity are up for review. You might be looking at changing your wardrobe, changing your hairstyle, asking yourself the question, well, who am I? What is it that actually is my purpose here? Who am I here to be? So that was my last phase. The phase I'm in right now is the second part of that, where I'm now putting roots down. So I'm paying attention to my house, my security, my money comes up as a big theme in phase two. Your environment, who are you actually surrounding yourself with? Because you want to be building a really strong, healthy foundation and root deep into this part of your life. So you're actually giving good, strong roots to the intentions that you've set for the year. And so if we were to swing around completely the other side, as you're getting closer to your harvest, per se, you go through one of my favorite phases, actually a very much a values dominant phase. You're encouraged to look back at the year and ask yourself, basically, how did I do? Am I in alignment with my value system? How did I show up this year? Did I actually do the things and commit my time, energy, and emotion to the things that I said were important to me at the beginning of the year? Yes or no? And it's very much, again, an objective, because you want to be constructive in your review. And that then prepares you to make decisions on what you're going to plant for your next harvest. Mm-hmm. Does that kind of make sense? You can see how there's, again, they're very different themes, but they all stack on each other. So as you're working through your year, you can see how you're building on the experiences that you've just had.
Say a bit more about what information you use to determine where somebody starts on their growth cycle.
So everybody starts at the same place, but it depends on where you are today. It's our birth details, it's our birth time, location. So it's the same information that you would use for human design or for your astrology chart. It's that same key piece of information. And that then gets plotted onto your personal map. Wherever you are today, you start where you are today, again, from a conscious awareness. You don't have to, it's not a program, it's not a course. You don't wait.
We're not starting at phase one. But the information that you would gather from someone to learn where you are on the growth cycle is your birth chart information. So you're gathering that information, and then it basically creates a framework specific to you. Okay, we're recording this interview in mid-May. So I can be like, okay, so where am I in my growth cycle in mid-May? And you might be anywhere from 1 to 12. But then once you know where you start, you're going to move forward at a predictable pace. So on the growth cycle, there are dates, right? From these dates, you'll be in this phase, and these dates, you'll be in this phase. And
that's every year for you. That's the same. Like once you've got it, your dates stay the same forever and ever. And so again, from a business perspective, we were talking a little bit offline about that. And again, this is so exciting to know is you are your business. Your business is you. And so if you know your own energy cycle, you know what is required of you or what you will require from your environment, from the people around you, from your business, how creative you're feeling versus how much rest you need, it actually helps you plan. So a lot of conversations I have with clients is around launches, right? And again, somebody can come to me and say, well, I'm planning on launching here. And I'm like, that's going to be particularly challenging because your energy is not supportive of that at the time. And we think about swimming in the water, right? There's times when the waves are going to be hitting you really hard and you're just going to keep fighting against them because in your brain, you're trying to make yourself do something that your energy actually wants you to be doing something else to make it easier. And not saying that you can't do anything at any time. That's not what we're saying. You have absolute free will to do whatever you want, whenever you want to. What the framework educates you on is what's going to make it the easiest and when and why. And also, like we talk a lot about rest. There's a big resistance in our culture to stop or what's seen to be stopping and actually resting and not doing and growing and going all the time. If you have that information up front, you can, again, look at it. The year as a big picture and maybe plan around it as necessary. I'm going to need more recharge time here. I'm going to feel particularly creative here. I'm going to feel more social here. I'm going to feel more isolated here. And make any necessary decisions that you can around that information, knowing that you have it up front. Does that make sense? That kind of give you a bit more?
Yeah, I think so for sure. And what I really like about the growth cycle is it gives you a different way to structure your growth. We talk a lot on the show and in the Deeply Rested world about why conventional planning doesn't work for most of us. And I know that's something you talk about a lot in your work too, that conventional planning is so rooted in patriarchy and capitalism and colonization and all of these systems that really strip us of our individuality and try to kind of put us all through the same sausage grinder. And that doesn't work, right? It just leads to so many of us feeling burnt out and hopeless and really full and just riddled with self-doubt. And what you're offering with the growth cycle is a system that is more rooted in nature, a system that says, hey, actually, we're not all the same. We are all different. We are all on different timelines. And here's a way that you can really honor what makes you unique while also moving forward in an organized and structured way. And one of my favorite lines that a mentor said to me ages ago that I now say to my clients all the time is, we have to give our minds a job.
Yes.
Like, our minds need a job. They need a task. They need a role. And I love the way you're describing the growth cycle as this piece of intellectual property that our minds can chew on, right? Our minds can go, okay, there's structure here. There's dates, there's words, there's questions I can ask. So we're giving our minds a job so that we can breathe and really experience deep rest. And I hope what people who listen to the show know at this point is that deep rest can be a very active process. It can be a tremendously fertile and creative time. It can be a really productive time, but we have to know in our own bodies, like, where am I right now and what do I need right now? I would love on that note to hear a little bit about what rest looks like inside of the growth cycle.
Yeah, that's a really great question. And again, I'm with you on this one because there's, again, a perception that resting means stopping and not doing anything. And one of my favorite quotes is, I'm going to butcher it, it's just left my head, but you'll get the concept, is doing nothing does not mean nothing is being done. Intellectually, we understand how a plant grows because we've all seen it. So intellectually, if you attach that to your life, it makes more sense because our brains want meaning, right? That's what they're seeking for all the time. Questioning, I want meaning, I need to understand. So if you can understand that actually just because I can't see any growth right now, but I intellectually understand I have roots going down, right? Yeah. So again, bamboo is a great metaphor and example of this. Is bamboo grows underground for a year before it grows up because it's establishing a really strong, healthy root system. There's a difference between stopping because you are burned out, as in I have nothing left in the tank, my batteries are empty, I have nothing to give right now.
Right. Well, there's a difference between collapsing and resting.
Correct. Yeah, that's a very good distinction, right? And when you get to that point, all you are doing is recovering. When you are resting, you are still proactively growing, right? Your brain is always working. Your body is always growing, whether you're actually moving, running, sprinting, or whether you're sleeping. There's this sense of you're always evolving. And if you can view your life that way, you give yourself, and the word I hear a lot from my clients is I gave myself permission. I gave myself permission to not push, to not, again, think about swimming through the water. There is this sense of the environment around you wants to support you. You have to learn how to navigate through it so that you are moving forward, getting more done, but it feels at more ease. It feels more in flow. Again, we've all had that situation, I'm sure, where there's a deadline. And it's usually when we're younger, right? Where we're just pushing, it's just, I got to go. And I'm just going to push through it, just push through it. And invariably, that took you 4 times as long because you were doing it tired than if you'd actually have just taken a break, collected yourself, had some sleep, and you would have actually been able to focus more. How does that show up in the growth cycle? There are, again, if we think of a plant that grows, there are growth spurts that are active, proactive, reaching out, times throughout the year when you want to be more social, when networking is really important, getting a creative input and inspiration from people around you is really important. And then there are times, especially early on at the beginning of your year, where your energy is internally focused because that's where the work needs to happen, is in yourself and in the roots that you're putting down. And everything starts with you. It's this guidance around, am I internally focused? Am I externally focused? Am I proactive and active right now? Or am I reflective and integrating? But at no point throughout the year are you doing nothing. I think is an easiest way of kind of summarizing that.
I love the specificity, again, that you get with your own unique seasons, which I think it's worth noting might not be in sync with the seasons of nature around where you live, which I think can be another really helpful aha in looking at the growth cycle for some people is, oh my gosh, no wonder I always, feel so self-critical in summer when everyone's like, yes, let's get out there and go, go, go. But like, actually, if you're looking at the growth cycle, you're in your winter. I think when you get those little insights into your own energy cycles, and then you get to start, I love how you were talking earlier about imagining layer upon layer, right? So when you can layer what's happening in your family, what's happening in nature around you, what's happening with your unique growth cycle, you all of a sudden have this much more holistic view of who you are and how you are meant to operate in the world. And permission slips galore to just like really tune in and honor what it is you need to root, to nourish, to grow, to harvest, all different depending on what phase of the growth cycle that you're in. It's that personalization that I think really makes this such a special system, Kate. It is really special. And I have a question, which is, this is something I have not asked you before, but I've always been kind of curious about. Can you explain how the growth cycle is different from human design, astrology, like other systems that are based on our birth charts specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love all of those things. Again, the more I can learn about myself, and again, my clients feel very much the same way, and I'm sure all your listeners feel the same way too. That is all valuable information.
Yes, it's not saying like if you do the growth cycle, like throw out your human design, doesn't matter. They're not in competition with each other.
No, absolutely. And in fact, they're extremely complementary to each other. The more you know of yourself, the healthier and happier you are in yourself. My personal distinction between all of those, whether it's Myers-Briggs, human design, your basic astrology, is their very big picture. They tell you your life path number, right? There's this sense of where your North Node is, and they're very epic. It's wow, which is great to know because, that makes sense because in this situation, I respond like this, or I tend to be triggered like this. It's a deeper understanding of a why, I think. With that being said, even with human design, which I'm a great fan of, what do I do today? Where do I wake up today? And do with this information. There's a lot to do because you're going to be that. I'm a generator. You're going to be a generator every day for the rest of your life. What makes today different? What makes it easier for me to stay in flow today? And that for me is the hands down biggest difference is it's, again, functional applied today. I can wake up any day of the year and I know what phase I'm in. I know what themes are particularly running, what a dominant question is, where my attention and energy is today, and what to do with that. And also, though, how that is contributing to the growth of my year. Because every day has a purpose, again, if it's building on top of each other. And the other thing, which I think we kind of glossed over, but it's really important to know is the growth cycle puts you in control of where your intention and attention goes throughout the year because you decided what seeds to plant. They didn't get planted for you. You didn't wake up in your planting seeds phase and get handed a packet of seeds and here's your year, deal with it. This is what's going to happen. The control is actually in your hands if you're using it consciously. So when you made the decision, again, that's the difference between our goal setting and our very much, linear, structured 5-year plan, do this every single day, is that there is a variation of what happens every day, but it's compound impact that leads towards the harvest that you planted at the beginning of the year. It's practical, it's usable. You can go as deep and as shallow as you want to, depending on how you're feeling. You can dive in, dip in and out throughout the year. You're never wrong. I think that's the other thing. And so there is this sense of it's always there for you and you can use it as and when you're feeling the need. I have clients that use it, journal every single day because it gives their brain something to focus on. And some clients are like, I wonder what phase I'm in because I'm feeling stuff. And then they go and check and it actually affirms what's going on for them. The more you know about yourself, the better. That being able to use that information to make decisions on a day-to-day basis, for me, is what gives the growth cycle the edge on usability.
I can't believe I didn't ask you that question sooner because that answer is so obvious now that you say it, and I love it. It really resonates that most of these systems are so epic. Is that what you said? They're like epic tales. Yeah. Like your human design chart is, wow, this like epic amount of information about who you are. Same with Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, right?
Yes.
It's telling you in sort of broad strokes who you are. Now, those broad strokes have a lot of nuance in them, but it can be really challenging to really trickle that down into, okay, and what does that mean for me this week? What does that mean for me right now in this moment? So the growth cycle is a way of saying, yes, like gather up all of that information about who you are and what your purpose is. And here's your map. Here's your map that can actually, if we're going back to, I'm lost in the forest, right? The growth cycle is like, here's your compass, here's your map. Just follow along. It just doesn't have to be so hard. This doesn't have to be, a challenge. It doesn't have to be a hero's journey, right? Where this is the heroine's tale. This is more feminine. There can be more ease and more flow and more self-discovery in this process. And the other thing I love that you're saying, Kate, is, which I have experienced since I first looked at my growth cycle with you a couple of years ago, it really is easy to dip in and out of. That's kind of who I am as a person, right? I dip in and out of these things as they call to me. I just trust intuitively that, when there's something for me to glean from the growth cycle, I'll get a little ping about it and I'll check it out. And same with my human design chart. When I get a little ping of being like, hey, maybe go look at this specific thing, and I'll go look at it. And I never feel like I'm behind when I dip back in to the growth cycle, if that makes sense. Like I don't feel like go ahead.
I was going to say, that means I've done a good job, because that's exactly my intention behind it. So.
Yeah, I think you've done a phenomenal job, truly. Yes, that is absolutely, like when I dip back in, it's just like, okay, here we are. It doesn't matter that I haven't looked at it for however many months, because this is where I am in this moment. And it doesn't actually matter where I was 2 months ago or where I'm going to be 2 months from now. I'm here in this moment and I can just breathe and relax. And this is where we really have a practical application for releasing the need to do this very conventional long-term planning, which I think is just such a joke. It's such a joke that we think we can plan our lives 5 years into the future. No, never. That's not how life works. But we do need some kind of structure. I need systems that are focused but flexible. And the growth cycle is that. It is focused, and it's also super flexible in how I can use it to help guide my way through my life and business. And that's one more thing I'll throw into the mix that I really like about the growth cycle, is that I feel like I can look at it through both lenses. If there's things happening in my personal life that I'm chewing on or moving through, great. The growth cycle, I can look at it through the personal lens, but I can also equally look at it through the business lens. And I always find applicability from that angle too. So it's really special when we find these tools that can meet us where we're at in time, regardless of what hat we're wearing, personal or professional. It really is like a treasure trove of wisdom and guidance. And you did that. Like you made that, Kate.
Yeah. Well, again, it was for personal use. I was like, this works, so let's share it. And it's just grown and grown. And again, remembering that wherever you go, there you are, right? We don't give ourselves permission to do that enough. And there's this sense of it being okay. Whatever is going on right now, everything is okay. And coming back to yourself and to your center and to whatever, in this instance, we're talking about a personal framework. It's a way of understanding. It's a way of actually going, oh yeah, that makes sense. That I can see how. And again, whatever is true for you is your truth. And so whatever meaning you're putting on something is true for you. And the idea being that if you're going to put a meaning on it, make it a positive growth spin, right? Make it meaningful, make it productive so that you actually can go, okay, yeah, I didn't like how that happened. I didn't like what just occurred there. How can I take control of this situation again? How can I step back into my power and know that this growth path is mine? And yeah, we have allies, and we have adversaries that show up. And the reality is life is not a walk in the park. It is not easy. And we do not want it to be like that. I'm sorry to say that. It's through the challenges that we learn and grow and actually get stronger. And we want to come at the end of every year. Again, if we think about the tree putting down a new ring, at the end of every year, a really successful, healthy tree has one more ring added to it. Its base is stronger. Its roots are deeper. It's reached a little higher up to the sky. It's more rooted in who it is as an entity. because it went through something to grow that ring that year. And we do that every year. So this isn't about avoiding the uncomfortable. It's actually about leaning in and understanding the uncomfortable and using it to your growth advantage so that you come out of it a stronger version of yourself, not one that has lost its confidence, having self-doubt and feeling disorientated. It's like, all right, yeah, that wasn't great. That didn't feel good. Picking myself back up. I know where I'm going and I know how to get back on track. That is my wish for my clients and for everyone, you know?
It's such a beautiful wish. And I just love the weaving together of this is a perfect system for people who are depth oriented. If you're still listening to this conversation, obviously you fall into this camp or you would have stopped listening, right? But it's like, like you're a seeker. You are drawn to personal growth and going deeper and healing and moving through challenges with introspection and everything you just said so beautifully. With the growth cycle, you can do it with more ease. That is what really excites me about what you've created and what you're sharing. It's, yes, we are people who will always live in intense, that doesn't mean it has to be heavy or hard or challenging or a struggle. Like we can live in these intense growth cycles and just be so full of ease and flow and curiosity. And this gives us a compass to help us stay in that alignment. Going back to your swimming story, we never feel like we're winded after only 20 laps across the pool. Like we can flow 60 laps with ease and feel invigorated on the other side of it.
And productive. I feel like I actually achieved more by doing less of my skin in the game. Yeah.
Yes. It's productivity. I mean, I love talking about productivity because I hate the way our Western capitalist culture talks about productivity, which is that you're only worthwhile if you have something of value to show for yourself and your time. And that thing needs to be something that I value. It's like really sticky. But sometimes we can swing too far to the extreme and be like, oh, I'm anti-productivity. And be like, okay, but which I've definitely gone to that end of the spectrum, to be clear. But then it's like you get there and you go, but wait a minute, but like I am a creative being and I do want to produce, to like make something that I can show you and share with you.
Yeah.
And the growth cycle, I feel like, gives us a path back to that.
Yeah, that's a final wrap-up point around that is we do want to produce. We do want to grow. We are naturally growing. Whether you want to or not, that is always going to be the case. So grow in the direction you want to grow in. And the other thing as well, is just so important is on that point to me is to grow from a place of integrity and authenticity so that what you are putting out in the world, what you are creatively contributing to the world actually comes from a place of deeper knowing, of authenticity, of integrity. And for that to happen, it means that you've done that work, that you actually do know who you are, that you're not just falling into the trap of, and we all do it and we've all been there, of just producing, because that's what we have consistently been trained to do, is that I am not of value unless I'm getting dollars in exchange for X. And that is not going to change per se anytime soon, because that is how we express our value in the world, is through money right now. But do it in a way that's actually authentic and coming from a place of love, and that you enjoyed creating, and that you've left a legacy in the world that is a piece of you that is bigger than a dollar sign.
Yes. Wow. I need to go back and just listen to that 3 times in a row. So rich and wise. And I just want to say, as we come to a close, that I'm so grateful that you came on to the podcast, Kate. I'm grateful to know you and for our paths. But it's so beautiful that the way in which you are both sharing something so practical and helpful and applicable. And we're going to tell everybody how they can get their own growth cycles and all that good stuff. And you are modeling for us with so much humility and clarity that like this is what the creative process looks like. And you are not any different than any person listening to this podcast. We are not special because we are recording this episode that we will just hit publish and put it on the internet. That doesn't make us somehow more evolved than everyone listening to this conversation. Like we are all in the same growth cycle. You said that earlier, right? We're all going through the exact same cycle. And our ideas, the ideas that are coming through us, like they're going to come through in little bits and pieces. Through iterations over years. And how can you trust that whatever is coming through you right now is perfectly formed for this moment.
Mhm.
Kate, thank you so much for sharing your process, for sharing this incredible system that you've created. I would love for you to share with listeners, where can they go to find out what season of the growth cycle they are in right now?
Good question. If you want to head on over to mygrowthcycle.com, and you can just put your birth details in, and you will find out where you are today on your own personal growth cycle. And if you want to continue the conversation, we can do it from there.
And just so everyone knows, you can get your growth cycle for free. It's so incredibly generous. And you just recently rolled this out, like within the last year, right? I mean, this is like a huge labor of love, y'all, to put this together on the back end, to create like an automated system where you put in your birth chart details and then you get your own thing. And I 1000% recommend doing this. Mygrowthchart.com. Is that what it is?
Mygrowthcycle.com.
Oh, thank you. I'm getting body chart confused. Yes, thank you. Mygrowthcycle.com. Put your details in. You're going to get the information about where you are in the growth cycle right now, so you can really like digest this conversation in a more personal way. And then you are available to work with people one-on-one. Is that right?
Yeah. But nothing gives me greater joy than coaching people on this process. So.
That's why I'm like, can you just tell us a little bit more about that? I've done a one-on-one with Kate. It was so deep, rich, nuanced. Tell people a little bit more about your one-on-one work, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. The framework of the growth cycle is actually underpins the work. But in the live session, again, I like to pull out my oracle cards, and we have some fun, and we do a deeper dive after we've kind of established where you are on the growth cycle, maybe some themes that are coming up, maybe walk through some of the experiences you've just had, and integrate where you have just been so that you know where you're going next. There's some coaching element to that as well. And then I pull out my oracle cards, and we do an oracle card deep dive reading, and just to get an energetic insight into what's coming up next. And I'm there to answer questions. I'm there to share some insights and just kind of let you know that what's going on is normal, and you're probably not the only one going through that, and what to expect of the current phase you're in, as well as what's coming next. So it's a really good orientation and just some deeper insights into some work that you might not be seeing yourself.
Incredible. It's such a gift that you're doing this work. And it's one of my favorite things in the world is when we strike a balance between the grounded and the magical and the energetic. And this is such a beautiful encapsulation of that, of this blend, this integration of the masculine and the feminine, the doing and the being, the structure and the soul. It's all of it wrapped up in one package. And I am really grateful to you for being here and sharing your wisdom with all of us on the Deeply Rested podcast. Kate, thank you so much.
Thanks, Megan. It's been a pleasure.
And if you loved this conversation with Kate, the most helpful thing you could do to support us here at the Deeply Rested podcast is to share this interview with a couple of your business besties. We are really focused right now on just spreading the word far and wide that this show exists and that these conversations are happening. So if it feels right for you to share this episode via text with some people that you love, we would really love you for it. So thank you, everyone, for being here, and we'll talk to you next week on the Deeply Rested podcast. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Deeply Rested. If you enjoyed this conversation, I would love to invite you to join the Deeply Rested weekly newsletter. You can sign up at deeplyrested.com/newsletter. I hope to meet you in my inbox very soon.